Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is set to be indicted on bribery and fraud charges. If indicted, this will be the first time an Israeli Prime Minister will face criminal charges. The country's Attorney General announced his decision to indict the Prime Minister today, but all indictments are pending a hearing. Netanyahu has been under investigation for more than 2 years. For more, CBS News correspondent Seth Doane joins us from London. Seth, what more do we know?
Well, we know that at that hearing, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will have a chance to defend himself. That official indictment does not take place until that hearing. We've only heard that hearing will happen relatively soon, but they did not give us a specific date for that. The entire process will really drag on, could continue on for some number of months. We know that he is facing charges of bribery, fraud, and breach of trust. There are 3 separate cases here that Netanyahu is facing. One of them, he is accused of providing regulatory concessions to a telecommunications company in exchange for favorable coverage. There is another charge that says that he and his wife, Sarah, received bribes totaling up to $280,000, bribes of jewelry and cigars in exchange for political favors. And then there is a third case, where there's a deal for favorable coverage in exchange for legislation that would damage a competing newspaper. So we have just heard the Prime Minister speak. He vehemently defends himself, says that these charges are absolutely not true. At the opening of that statement, he thanked President Trump for his support. He said that these charges are a house of cards that will collapse. He said the charges are a political witch hunt, and as you point out, they are timed. This is all unfolding at a very sensitive time as Israelis will go to the polls on April 9th. Rina?
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that timing. You know, the fact the indictment is coming just weeks ahead of an election there. Have you sort of gotten a sense of how it's impacting the race and the candidates?
Well, the real concern is that for the Netanyahu camp is that it could have a huge impact. They're saying that this is fundamentally undemocratic of the Attorney General to bring this indictment at this time, because the Netanyahu camp says, listen, Israeli voters will have heard these charges, they will have heard these allegations, but since the political process will not have run its course, he will not yet have the opportunity to defend himself. So Netanyahu saying this political witch hunt, these charges will be hanging out there, and Israelis will not have heard the resolution. You've really seen he's a part of the Likud party on the far right. You've heard the parties on the far or to the left saying that the Attorney General has not moved quickly enough, that he has dragged his feet in bringing about these indictments, where you're hearing completely the opposite, as you might expect from the folks who are supporting Netanyahu, saying that this is moved along quickly to be timed just ahead of this election. Now, Netanyahu did call for early elections, placing this date on the 9th of April, and some analysts are saying that that was done to try to get ahead of this indictment. So a very politically sensitive time, and really in Israel, a very tight race with some strong contenders who are vying for that position of Prime Minister.
Seth Doane, thank you so much for this update.
Thank you.